Arizona Realty brings you Ignite Elementals Session 6, Make and Receive Offers with Bubba Clement.
Morning. I'm super excited that Bubba from Team Integrity, one of our expansion teams, is here joining us to talk today about making and receiving offers. Bubba was one of the first people that I met when I came to this market center. And have you ever just met one of those people that their energy and just their personality, you're like, gosh, I'm like, that person he's awesome. I just need to know him more and like get to work together. And that's truly Bubba. And he just an amazing person. So if you don't know him, when we're kind of mingling back around, you'll get to know him a little bit today. But just the energy and, thinking about it from a client perspective, someone who truly will make his clients feel comfortable working with him as well. He is also one of our ALC members and in charge of the wellness committee. So a lot of amazing things. And Bubba, we're so excited to have you talk to us today about making and receiving offers.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction, Jackie.
Oh, are you on mute or did I lose? Can you guys hear him? Oh, it's me. Now I can hear you. Sometimes my computer acts weird.
All good. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction, Jackie. I appreciate it greatly. I'll try to live up to that height.
No pressure.
But again, thank you very much. And I feel the same way about you. You have a great energy that you bring to the office, and it's greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for that. And thank you very much for everybody coming on the call here today, checking out Ignite 2.0, making and receiving offers. It's a big part of our business is the negotiation and creating perfect documents. We're legally able to present offers. A lot of states have real estate attorneys and stuff. So we represent our clients in a very high capacity. And I think it's very important that when we do that we do have seamless offers that come across the table, and we present the best ones that we can, because it definitely makes our buyers' offers more attractive when they are presented well. When you do have communication with the other agent and you have good communication with your buyers and set those expectations as well with each property that you're going to make an offer on. I'm going to start sharing my screen here and we'll kind of start the process. If you have any questions, this is interactive. I'd love to hear back from you and answer any questions that you may have. If I can't answer the question, we'll go ask Kate because she has all the answers. So.
She does. I'm not sure I ever have met anyone that knows a contract as well as Kate.
Absolutely. And it's very important. So, sorry, I'm just moving this stuff around for us. All right. So, again, welcome to the Elemental Session number 6, Making and Receiving Offers. A little bit, again, about what successful agents do every day. They grow their business and then they run their business. The key to growing your business is you're working on your business and not in your business. That's getting other people lead generation, going out and farming, go door knocking, calling your sphere of influence, doing your database. All of those things is growing your business and adding to your database. Running your business is showing the houses once you have that relationship built, marketing your listings, negotiating the contracts. Those are all in your business. So it's very important to distinguish between the two and know what you're working on daily. You have to work on both or else your database will shrink, because constantly people are moving, have a brother or sister that get into real estate, an aunt and uncle, whatever the case is. So your database is always shrinking. So it's important to add to it daily to make sure that you can grow that as best as possible. And the offer process. Just a general overview of the offer process. The buyer makes the offer, obviously. The seller responds in one of the 3 ways. They either counter, they accept, or they reject. You can see where it goes from there. If they counter, you're back into the negotiation stage and see if you can find a win-win for all parties. If they accept, then we go to the inspection period, earnest money, and start all that process. If they reject, call the agent, see what the thought process was, because a lot of times I've had offers rejected over very small things, and it could come back and you could get back under contract just with a little communication. It goes a long way. So again, it's very important on the front end to get to know the listing agent and just have that line of communication with them before you present an offer. Sometimes you'll see agents present offers, just slide it into your inbox and never give you a call, shoot you a text or anything about it. So you're just like, okay, well, very nice. So it's very important that you talk with the agents on the other side of the transaction. Checklist to prepare an offer. When you're going through your offer, make sure that you have a pre-qual. In section 2 of the financing, we have to have a pre-qual to present with our offer. So that's very important that you have them speak with the lender, or you have a proof of funds if it's a cash sale. Do a CMA, do a general CMA, see if you're in the ballpark. Make sure that it's going to be somewhere where you think the value will be there for an appraisal. It's very important, I think, in a CMA, right, it's an opinion of value. An appraisal is an opinion of value, but it's important to get a ballpark so you know that you're not going to go through inspections, have your buyer pay for an appraisal, it come in $10,000, $15,000 under value, and then the seller won't budge, so they're out $1,000 in 30 days or 25 days, whatever the case. So make sure that you look at that and you kind of educate your buyers on what that looks like. Review the tax records for information and pricing history. See if there's any kind of information you could find out about the current owners. And then ensure the property is still available. They could say it's available, and in 20 minutes they say, we have an offer we just accepted. So it's important, again, to communicate with that listing agent to let them know, hey, we are working on something. Please let us know if anything comes across the table, so we make sure that we're able to represent an offer for my buyer as well.
Bubba, how do you prepare your buyers for some of those things? Like, how do you front load them? We've talked about buyer appointments a little bit in terms of here's what we can negotiate. Like, how do you front load them with information about when they're ready to make an offer?
Yeah, so the information that I talk about in my buyer consultation, which is very important to have, sit down with your buyer, and it's really setting up expectations. We all know that even with the current events with COVID and everything still transitioning, it seems like the market is still moving pretty quickly and in different price points. So it depends on what price point they're in. Say they're at a 300,000 range, looking in the East Valley, Chandler Gilbert. All right, well, there's a lot of competition that's going to be coming in. Look at the stats. Right now, the seller's getting 98.7% or 99.2% of list price. So what is a deal to you? A lot of people want a deal, offer 5, 10 under list price. Well, that's probably not going to win the offer. So if you love the home, then you need to make sure that you present something that's strong that the seller's going to want to accept over the 4 or 5 other offers that they're getting. So I always front load the expectations based on price point, area, what their time frame is. Do they have to sell a home? Do they own their home outright? They're okay with kind of testing the market. It's really, you have to tailor all of this to each of your clients because everybody has a different situation going on in life. And it's one of the biggest decisions they have to make. So it's definitely something where I feel that knowledge is power, in this situation. So information to your clients is key. And again, it's setting up realistic expectations. Also, when you're talking about the offer, since you asked, you go through the contract about concessions. What are seller concessions? What do those look like? Should we ask for those? What does home warranty cost? Are we going to ask for that from the seller? Is the seller offering your refrigerator, washer, and dryer? Those are negotiable items as well, which could be a good chunk of money for somebody that's coming into a home, say with an FHA loan, minimal funds out of pocket to obtain the loan. They're trying to get 2% in seller concessions, except the seller's not offering the refrigerator, washer, dryer. That's another $1,000-$1,500 that they're going to have to expect to pay for whatever. Obviously that's a big range that people can pay for washer, dryer, and refrigerator, but another X amount of dollars on the back end of the transaction to prepare them for as well. So does that answer your question, Jackie?
Yeah, that's great. Thank
you. Excuse my voice; it's a little hoarse.
Bubba, a quick one for you. When you do your CMA, do you ever use RPR and their reports?
You know what? And it's Keith. Yes, Keith. I looked at RPR when I first became an agent about 5 years ago. I really liked the tools that they had, except I typically just run it through our Armless system. They do have beautiful reports. They look really good, and they're very easy to put together. However, I've never utilized them, but they are a great resource. So if you do use them, absolutely. Anybody else have any questions about expectations for the buyers or preparing an offer, or what you've kind of seen with your offers maybe that you have questions about? Good? Cool. We'll keep on rolling. All right. Now, writing the offer, again, price and terms. Again, are we offering $300,000 and asking for 3% in concessions? Are we offering full price with no concessions, no washer and dryer, no home warranty? These are all conversations that you need to have with your buyer. What funds do they have? Do they already have those items that they could replace? If not, what price point are we in? How many offers do they have on the other side? So you really need to talk with the agents as well to set your expectations per property, like I was saying earlier, and per client, because all offers are different and all properties are different. We've written 3 offers for a client in the last 3 days, 3 different properties, and each of those offers look different just because of days on market, interest level, and all that kind of stuff. So you have to tailor this to each transaction. And I stress that very highly because everything is different. No 2 transactions are the same. So make sure that you're prepared for that. The seller's disclosures, the spuds, if you will, those are supposed to be delivered within 3 days of contract acceptance. Sometimes they have them in the MLS to review before you write an offer and check those out. Sometimes in the MLS, you'll see that there's no spuds available. They still have to disclose what they know, regardless of that. So see what's up with the property if you can with the spuds. And then if not, you'll be doing your due diligence and inspection anyways. So, and a lot of times the sellers don't know everything about their property. They just don't. So there might be things that they miss or just don't know. Some are elderly, some are young. They just have never worked on their property. They bought it and it's kind of what it is. So just make sure that you do an inspection period or an inspection with your clients to make sure that you see anything that the seller missed or didn't disclose. Conveyances, pretty much what that is. Right in section 1, as you go down the list there, it'll talk about attached fixtures and what conveys with the property. Refrigerator, washer, and dryer are the most negotiable ones. Typically, if it's screwed or glued to the property, it stays. That's what I tell my clients. If it's bolted to the wall, the TV mounts, those all stay. They just included ring and video devices, ring doorbells, video devices. Those now stay with the property. So if your sellers are looking to sell their property, make sure if they want to keep those to remove those and put the old items back. Just an FYI for that. Mm-hmm. Earnest money. You'll see anywhere from 0.75 to 1.5%, of the purchase price. It's really just what your clients have right now, and also what the sellers are willing to accept on that. You'll sometimes see the sellers on $25,000 or $250,000 purchase price, they'll accept $1,000 earnest money. Sometimes you'll see a seller on a $250,000 purchase price counter that and want $2,500 earnest. So it all varies. You never know what somebody will or won't accept, but it is something to discuss with your buyer to make sure that they do have those funds at the beginning of the transaction, and that they're aware that they have to have those funds to put down within the first 24 hours or so of the transaction, if it's not over a weekend. Time for seller acceptance. At the bottom of the contract in section 8, or section 9 rather, it'll have terms of acceptance, or it is in section 8, I believe, sorry. It'll have terms of acceptance for the seller. Make sure you read the MLS or you contact the agent. Sometimes sellers are out of the state, or they're, a 48-hour response time because the listing agent has to go over there. They don't do DocuSign or e-sign. That is important, one, for just line of communication and making sure that they're aware that, you're being cognizant of their seller. And also, they don't have to draw up a counter offer or an addendum to make sure that they extend the terms of acceptance for the seller. If you write something up, with the 12-hour or 24-hour response time, and they're not able to answer it within 24 or 48 hours, for example. So make sure, communicate with the other agent. It's very important. And then financing terms, make sure that your buyer and seller are agreeable to those. If it's FHA, VA, conventional cash, some sellers don't want to accept FHA or VA loans for whatever reasons. So you'll see cash or conventional. So just make sure that the property is something that you can write an offer on, and not spend all that time and energy showing homes that are not FHA approved to clients, writing the offer, and then finding out that we could only go conventional or cash on this property. Creating the offer in the command. Right up here in the offers tab, when you're in command, you could create a new offer. Or you could go over here to opportunities if you're working with clients, and you could create the offer through there. Kate does a great presentation on this, and Casey does as well. So make sure you get to the tech classes, and they could walk you through this, more than I would. Excuse me. One second. Offer writing guidelines. Does anybody have any questions up to this point? I'll keep asking that. So, if you do, just, again, chime in. Nothing means we're good. All right, so cover letters. Sometimes this does work. I have had it work for clients. Other times people don't care at all. They really want a dollar figure, and it's really up to, again, that seller, what they're willing, what they're looking at. Sometimes it pulls on the heartstrings. You have a couple that wants a young family to come into their home and love it like they did and raise their children in it, right? So this is a great template right here that you could utilize, that we have, and you could also adjust it and just kind of write a formal letter or whatever you'd like, but sometimes these do work. So if your client thinks that it would be the best to utilize, then definitely utilize one of these. Again, with those clients, the last 3 days, we have utilized a cover letter. The first two, it didn't work. The last one, we're going to get accepted today because of the letter, because they were all close. So it does work, like I said. So if you want, utilize it, definitely. Role playing. The buyer offer objections that we would go through. Just give me 1 second.
While Bubba's getting that ready, I'll have to tell you a quick story. I used a letter in a similar situation for a client. One letter, the one it didn't work on, and the other one she rewrote her letter, and it was so memorable because as I'm reading it, she sent it to me and said, "Is this okay?" And in there she talked about her and her husband raising her family, and they, have a son, and then she wrote, "Shh, don't tell, we have another one on the way." And so she announced to these strangers that she was pregnant and to myself before she told her family. It was super cute, but it helped them like win over, the next home. So like you said, in some cases it works, some cases it doesn't. But if you're there and they're saying, like, what do you think? Like, what's the last ditch effort? What else can we do? Hey, why don't we try this letter? It can't hurt. It's not necessarily going to push us over the edge, but that could be the last thing that we could, attempt to put along with our offer in this situation. So.
Absolutely. 100%. And you know what? They won the home, like you said, and they got to get in there and start their family or grow their family, and it's awesome to be able to help clients in that way. So buyer offer objections. So there's a couple of common objections. Some buyers want the sellers to make repairs in the offer. Hey, will you fix this and this? Just go over and explain to them, we can't really ask for repairs in this with the lender. You don't want to put, we need a new roof and all this stuff. It just throws up red flags. We'll address those during our inspection period, and request some stuff on the Benzer. Or when your clients want to make a very low offer right out of the gate, you want to make sure that they know the repercussions of such a low offer. Sometimes if you offer $20,000 less on a new listing, the seller won't respond to your offer, and the next time you come in, they're just not going to work with you because people get offended sometimes. It's a highly emotional process, and some people take it very personally on that part. Whether it's good or bad, it's just what happens, right? Has anybody experienced any other buyer objections or things that they're experiencing with their buyers currently that they want to kind of talk about here?
It's a really good time to jump in, you guys, and share. Think about any objections that you've heard recently from buyers.
Good.
Okay.
No noise, we're good.
Bubba, I was delayed, but what do you do with the buyer that wants to add in a whole bunch of things in addition to the refrigerator and the washer and dryer that they see in the house?
Yeah, so it just depends. Like I said, if it's typically if it's screwed or glued, you're good to go. If they want to negotiate like paintings, or they really like that sofa in there, or they like the way that vase is, that's typically something that you would do on a separate bill of sale. Just talking with the agents, I've had people buy numerous items from the sellers. They'll make them an offer on it, and the sellers are like, well, we didn't want to take that anyway. So sometimes the sellers will just leave it. But it's everything's negotiable, pretty much. You could ask about it. However, it's not something that we would list on our purchase contract. That's the biggest thing. That's something that's outside of our scope in what we're writing for the contract. It's for the house, not the property inside of it. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Presenting the offer. Again, number one thing to do is communicate with the other side. I can't tell you, having a relationship with that person is going to be your biggest asset to winning the offer. Minus presenting a strong offer, right? I mean, that comes into play as well. But if all's fair in war, right, and we're there close to list price, having communication and talking with the other agent or, is the number one thing. Again, it's so important that you have that line of communication, because I will work with somebody that calls me, talks to me about their buyers, gives me a backstory. We talk, the lender calls me, or just notify the listing agent, hey, would you like the lender to call you? Talk about my clients, talk about their pre-qualification, where they're at, it helps a ton to win, especially in close offers, because it's important to people that they know that they're not just a credit check pre-qualification. They've had their W-2s, they've checked their pay stubs, they've had their earnings, they've shown that they have the down payment. All very important things. So communicate with the listing agent, let them know when offer's coming over.
How much, sorry, just jumping in on that, especially for newer agents, Bubba, sometimes like the line gets a little blurred as to what can they share, having that fiduciary duty to their buyer, what should they share, what can they share. Can you maybe give some examples about, like, when you call a listing agent before you send an offer, what you share or what you ask them?
So what I share with the listing agent is, hey, my buyers are highly qualified, or whatever the case is. They're looking to move into this property. They are looking to raise a family, or whatever, the case is. Kind of give them a little backstory. And it's what my clients want me to tell them. It's not what I want to tell somebody. It's kind of what my clients are comfortable with disclosing to the other side as well. Some people are like, hey, let them know. This is us. This is what we want to do. Some people are like, I'm not really that open. So it's tailoring to each of your clients. But mostly what people are concerned with are their financing and their pre-approval. I mean, let's be honest, this is a business transaction, and that's what the number one most important things are, to most people, is what does this look like? Are your buyers pre-qualified? Are they serious about it? And stuff like that. So, sometimes they're like, hey, what can your buyer do? Are they willing to waive the appraisal contingency? Are they willing to do a shortened inspection time, and all that kind of stuff. So those are all just things that, again, what's your buyer or your client who you're representing, because that is your fiduciary responsibility, to look out for their interest, number one. So that's what I typically do, though. Call them, get a feel, and then just talk about the financing, because I think that's the number one.
Yeah. I think job security right now too, letting them know.
Correct.
Hey, this is for our time.
Yeah. We had 2 offers on a property yesterday on one of my listings. Same price, same everything. We're going to present to the seller today, but one of them's like, my client works in the paper industry. There's no shortage of jobs there. He's making toilet paper and all that kind of stuff. So she's like, he's not going to lose his job. I was like, cool. That's good information to know.
It is.
So yeah, so that's a great point. And thank you for bringing that up, because job security, even right now, there's just a ton of nurses that got furloughed over at Honor Health, right? Until October 31st of this year. So there is definitely that thing about job security right now that's a high concern for people. So thank you very much, Jackie, for making that point. Send the offer to the agent once you've done it. Set the deadline. Again, talk with them what deadline would work for them. Be cognizant of the other side. It's very important. Create the offer in command, either through opportunities or offer. And consult with your buyer when the seller responds. Again, at the beginning of the presentation, it was either they're going to counter, they're going to accept, or they're going to reject. Those are their 3 options. And then you go from there. Presenting the offer. Again, that's kind of what we just went over, Jackie. About doing that. Does anybody want to role play, presenting an offer for their buyer, or what that looks like towards a listing agent, or? Good. Okay, let's flip it over on representing the seller. Now we have received the offer. We'll gather the information, what their pre-qual looks like, what their job looks like, what their financing looks like, all that kind of stuff. What's their backstory? Who are they? Present the offer to your client, and we'll respond to the offer. And again, the seller has the three same options: counter, accept, reject. Checklist for reviewing. Make sure that the information overall on your offer is correct and all the boxes are initialed or signed. Make sure you go through all of that because it's important, because you're going to have your transaction coordinator or your broker or whoever it may be come back to you and be like, hey, this box isn't checked. So, and it's a legally binding contract like I was talking about at the beginning. Make sure that this is seamless. This is very important, and this is the standard that we have as fiduciaries and people representing one of the biggest financial decisions of people's lives, to make sure that we're seamless, that this looks good and it's absolutely correct, so we don't have any kind of legal issues down the road with, hey, you didn't have me initial this, or you didn't go over this with me specifically. So that is very important. Be sure that the address is correct for the house. Also, the assessor's number, and then the legal description. All three of those are right in the top part of your offer. So just make sure that they wrote down the right property. Sometimes if you do .loop or DocuSign, it'll auto-correct back to the old property if you're writing on the same form for those clients. So just check. Check if the price is where the seller wants it to be, obviously. See if the earnest money amount is acceptable to the seller. Like I said, it varies so much from seller to seller what they're willing and not willing to accept as part of that. The time for the acceptance, see how long they have to respond. It might be 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so you need to have a conversation with them as soon as possible, or have a conversation with the buyer's agent. Hey, we're not going to be able to respond by 2 p.m., but we're going to be looking at offers around 6 or 7 tonight. We'll let you know at that point. So communicate back with the buyer side so they know that they're not just a no, for not responding. So just set that expectation when you see that time. Pre-approval, call the lender. The lender can't disclose everything to you, but you'll see that a lot of lenders do. This is what the buyer situation is. This is what they're doing, and they'll give you some information. So try to get as much information as possible. Loan approval. That is actually specific in our contract, the time for the final loan approval and everything. So look through that. That'll be in your contract. Get to know your contract and know where all those are. But within 10 days, they have to go for the loan approval of contract acceptance. And that'll be there's a checklist on our Arizona offers at the very top, that very first cover page. Go through those and make sure you look at all those and have those checked off as well. Financing terms, make sure it's agreeable to the seller. Are they accepting FHA loans? Because their roof or their fascia on their fascia's deteriorated and they have a couple cracked windows, they're not willing to fix those, or whatever the case is, and they can't go FHA at that point. So just make sure it's agreeable to the seller what they want, because ultimately that's who you're representing on this side now. And then the closing date. You'll see all kinds of dates vary, 23 days, 45 days. It just depends on what the buyer situation is, and see if the seller's okay with that, because sometimes the seller is going to purchase a home after they go under contract. So they may need 45 days instead of 23 days. Find out again from the other side, what's the reasoning behind this? What's the motivation for that date that they set? Why is it 45 days instead of 30? We have to be to Massachusetts in 25 days. We need this close 5 days later, so we have the funds, to live our life at that point. So just these are all things that you look over, and a lot of these conversations you'll have with your sellers already during the listing consultation. What to expect, what kind of financing we'll see, what are the terms typically, what are you going to, what do people ask for? What are seller concessions? Do the refrigerator, washer, dryer go? All those kind of things. So communication, communication, communication. That's all this business is. That's all this business is.
Bubba, this is Keith. A real quick one.
Yeah.
I'd like to jump on top of that a little bit. Do you make sure that you always communicate totally, but not just verbally, but follow up in writing? Because even though everything in the contract is what's appropriate and will save you later on, and Kate will save you, and so will the firm if you get into a lawsuit. But what also helps and mitigates is if you actually absolutely have every email, every text, et cetera. So for example, I've never deleted an email. I have every email that I ever had in a transaction. So in case it ever comes back, I can prove exactly what's going on. And I always made sure I followed up with an email, because that's allowable in court.
Absolutely. And Keith, you bring up a great point. With that, it's very important once you have a conversation, put it in writing in an email and confirm it back. Hey, just to go over what we just talked about. This is what we just spoke about here. And then what was the first part about that you just said, Keith, again? I'm sorry.
Just make sure you follow up on everything in an email. And personally, I have never gotten rid of an email.
Yes.
I probably have 120,000 emails, literally.
Yes.
If it's an ad, I might get rid of it. But the reason is, I have been in a situation over the last 10, 12 years working commercially where all of a sudden with a major firm, I had left the firm for a year. And all of a sudden, when you start getting into hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of liabilities or millions, all of a sudden your firm can forget about you. And they'll say, oh, that never happened. But I had 700 pages of documentation that I printed out, and it all went away. So please make sure that you have all your documentation, and don't just trust it's going to be in Command or some other place. Copy, keep it yourself in your own files.
Absolutely. And to be the devil's advocate on the backside, don't delete your emails or texts and think they won't be found. There's always a data trail. There are plenty of people that have tried to do that, and in court cases, they have gone back through their messaging and they have found the text and the emails, and they've proven through that way as well. So you can't hide. So this is a great point, Keith, that you bring up. Whatever you say in those emails and those texts, those are permanent. Those don't ever go away. So be very cognizant of what you say, and be aware always what you're representing.
Bubba, even beyond that, only because I ran a company one time and we had some issues I won't go into, but we had forensics come in and they can tell every single keystroke you ever put on your computer, every Google search, everything you ever did. They can go back and pull it up, because I had brought up on some of our 50 computers that people had typed into Google a certain thing about a lawsuit, and literally is that a problem? So they can go back forensically and pull every single thing off your computer you ever have done, not just with reference to some transaction.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's just a good life lesson in general. Make
Yes.
sure that you filter yourself, make sure that you think, what you say can and will be held against you.
Yeah, and you know what? Let's just go on a little sidebar there. With that being said, be aware of what you're posting and talking about on social media and stuff, because your clients are watching you. People are watching you. You know what I mean? Do your own thing. I'm not saying don't be who you are, but just be aware. People do watch and people do listen. You'll put a post up and there's 2 likes on it. You talk to somebody 3 weeks down the road that you didn't even think looked at that thing, and they talk to you about it. So people are watching. Just because they don't like or comment, they see it. So just be aware of what you're posting, what you're putting out there. It's very important for our relationships. So.
Great point.
Presenting the offer.
Bubba?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question. Okay. So all these checklists and things, I'm a brand new agent. Where do we get those? Is that off of Command, or do we get a booklet with all this stuff in it when we join? Like I joined the BVO team 3 weeks ago. Or how do we get these checklists and things?
Yeah, they are available to you, and they are available in
So as you're looking, I was gonna say, as you're looking, Thomas, what the critical date list that Bubba was referring to, to make sure that you're in your time frame with due diligence and things like that, that's in DocuSign. Kate has
Okay.
that, I believe, in our AAR document library. In terms of also having a checklist, Kate also has a few different checklists in terms of what paperwork is required for making an offer, for working with rentals, for working with new builds. So she, to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure if those checklists are on Command or not, or on DocuSign.
Oh.
I'd have to go back and look. My first recommendation is always, if you're on a team, to kind of go back to your rainmaker and ask upper coordinations and the operating manager of your team first, to see if they have a specific kind of pecking order with their transaction. The critical date list is definitely on DocuSign. If you don't have or can't find, email me, text me, and I can send you those ones that Kate has as well. But typically we always, like, the first, if you're on a team, we say go back to your rainmaker first, just in case that they have something specific they want you to go to. And then I am more than happy to get you those other checklists from Kate. But critical date is definitely on DocuSign.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, that's also a good spot, Bubba, that Bubba's pulling up. Thomas, this will help you. Oh, you're on mute, Bubba. You probably said a lot of great things.
Oh, yeah. So, no, it also said, like, this specific one is in the toolkit in Ignite on sample page 3 in the participant guide, if you got those. So that specific one is on there. But this one right here is a good one as well. So once you go under contract, like before, when you're in your consultation, it shows right here, and this is all in Command. It'll show you need your real estate disclosure or agency and disclosure, buyer advisory, if you have a buyer broker, and the prequal. Then you go to under contract, and this will switch over to the purchase contract, any counter offers, pool disclosures. So this is the checklist that we have for our market center. It doesn't give you dates, but it'll go through. Sometimes you don't need the lead-based paint addendum once you're under contract because it was built after 1978, but it is in here, and you could just close them out or knock them off the list if you don't need it. If it's on-site water, just, you don't have to use it if it's connected to sewer. But these are all on here. Earnest money deposit, title commitment, insurance claims, any addendums. So this is all in your Command. So you could click on consultation first, and then once you go under contract, you could also look through these docs to see what you'll need. Purchase contract, counter, etc. So
and you'll see, will you stay on that screen for a second, Bubba? You'll see that they say required under the ones that you must have. And then, like Bubba was saying, with the lead-based paint, some say conditionally required. So that means that they might not always be part of the transaction. So that's kind of how you can check yourself there.
Thank you very much. I didn't ever even see that. So that's something I just learned.
Learn together.
I'll go back to Zoom here. I can find my screen again. It hides sometimes in the back. There we go. All right. Presenting the offer. Notify the seller. And then if you can go in person, people nowadays, Zoom works just fine, having a conversation like this. If the person's able, phone conversation, etc. You could use Command to communicate the offer in the KW app. Again, talk with Casey or Kate on that. They can kind of guide you through that process. Update the CMA. Let the seller know. And if it went on the market, what you're seeing is things are transitioning pretty quickly. So I don't think you need to necessarily update the CMA if you're 3 days on the market and the seller just got a full price offer on that. I don't think you need to do that. If they're on the market for 20 or 30 days, that's also a conversation that you probably already had, and you've been showing the properties that have been buying and selling just to, kind of back the pricing, if you will, as it goes. So just watch the neighborhood trends and then talk to the seller about it. Present the offer. What are they asking for in price? Again, repairs in Arizona aren't negotiated. I don't know about other states on the offer. That's in the Benzer or the due diligence period. Buyer motivation. Do they have to be in Arizona in 20 days and they start their job day 21? So they need to be here ASAP. Or is the buyer looking to sell their property and they're contingent on selling their property? So it's going to be, a 35, 40-day process. It doesn't mean that they're not motivated. It just shows where the buyers are at. So again, communicate, find where they're at. And any contingencies, again, is there a buyer or a contract contingent on the buyer's sell, which means that the buyer is looking to sell their property. It's either on the MLS or it has a contract on it. So all things to talk about with your seller about. And then the three things: counter, accept, or reject. Those are our three options on that there. So responding to the offer. Whoa. I didn't know I could slide it like that. Reach a decision. Again, this is the three things that they could do. And at that point, you go from there. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Anybody have any questions, or have they had anything that has come up with the sellers that they've noticed that they, want to discuss or role play about, when a seller gets maybe upset that the buyers are asking for 3% concessions, or, they're upset that the buyer's coming in FHA financing and they don't want that. They want a cash offer. They want to close in 10 days. So has anybody experienced anything or with their sellers yet at this point that they would like to discuss?
I'm going to do one with you. So how about we get an offer. I'm the seller, and you present me the offer, but it's a low ball offer from the buyer.
Cool.
Okay. So
bring.
Present me the offer. How you present. You as the agent, knowing that it came in low, kind of present it how you would present it to me, and then I'll respond to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I like this one.
Hey, Jackie, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. You see the offer come through?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
That's really low, and I really don't even want to take the time to deal with them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I completely understand. We're a couple days on the market here. There's a lot of activity, and you see this sometimes. Sometimes people are out there fishing, and just trying to get a deal, right? However, the good news is we got an offer on the property, right? There's more showings that are going to happen. And ultimately, I think your home's going to sell for a lot closer to the list price. So what we can do, Jackie, is we could counter them, closer to list price or at list price or whatever you'd feel, and then go from there. What would you like to do ultimately?
Well, if you think we're going to get more offers, is it even worth going back to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes people, like I said, are just fishing. I've had numerous people offer $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. At your case right here, it's about 12 under list price. We come back with a full price counter, or whatever the case is, whatever you feel comfortable with, and they've accepted. The buyers have accepted. Sometimes it's just them realizing maybe they're new on the market. They're realizing that you can't just, maybe they heard it from mom and dad. You offer $10,000 under, or whatever the case is, right? So let's talk with the listing agent. I'll get a conversation going with them. I just received the offer, so I wanted to call you real quick just to make sure you received it, kind of see what your thoughts were on it. However, I could get a little more backstory for you about the client, about the buyer, what their situation is, and then we can make a decision on how you would like to counter. Does that sound fair to you?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, cool. Well, let me have that conversation with them real quick, and then I'll give you a call back.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, Jackie, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing a lot better now. So I talked with the list or the buyer's agent. You know, they told me that the buyer wanted to come in a little low. They advised them that they should be closer to list price. It's great property in a great area, and that they would think it'd be that way. So, again, it was just a discussion to be had. So, the buyers are willing to come up to list price. They do need a little bit of concessions, about 1.5%. Seller concessions, which we had discussed previously in the listing consultation, that this might happen at this price point just to have a little bit of extra help. I talked with their lender as well, and they did say that they do need those concessions to close. They only could come up with the down payment and a little bit of their closing costs. So a little tight on funds. However, they're willing to come up to the list price or asking price. They're just asking a little help from you on the back end. So what are your thoughts with all that?
I guess my question would be if you think we could get list price from another buyer without concessions.
Well, yeah. You know what? We possibly could. You know, a bird in the hand is better than two in the tree. However, we are very new on the market, Jackie, and I want to make sure that we do receive and field as many offers. We do have 3 or 4 more showings today and a couple tomorrow. So I'll let the agent know that we're going to be looking at the offers and that we'll be talking about them probably tomorrow afternoon or so. So we'll just have to have their expectation that they'll receive a response for us tomorrow afternoon. And then we could also use that to probably utilize, leverage a little bit other offers. Hey, we got a great offer in, you know, present us with what your highest and best, because we're not lying. We're not disclosing anything that's not true, right? So.
Yeah, that would make me feel comfortable.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Miss Jackie. And again, the showings will be throughout the day, you know, the times. So after they go through that, I'll get you some feedback and then we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Bubba.
You're very welcome. Have a good day, Miss Jackie.
You too. Bye. Nice.
Yeah.
So what did you guys notice about that? Let's get some observer participation, crowd participation, if you will. I think I see there we go. I knew I saw Victoria reaching to unmute herself.
Oh, you know, she can't keep her mouth shut. So she.
No, you're helpful. You always, if I give a little wait time, I can always count on you.
Well, I'm hoping somebody else is going to do it before me. He kept it really positive. You know, there was no disparaging of the offer or anything like that. It was positive. We can counter and come back at this, and yeah, it was upbeat and yeah.
Yep. What else? Somebody else?
He also followed back on everything you said and basically said, I understand, and then followed on with another comment, but he always reinforced what you said to make sure that you as his client knew that he was listening.
He asked a lot of questions, always making me feel like I was making the decision, though he was really guiding me towards making a good decision, right? Like, so if you caught on to that, I thought that was really powerful. And I think, you know, offering to call the other agent before we made any decision together, I think that's something that a lot of people don't necessarily do or think to offer to their seller. You know what, hold on, you know what, let me make this phone call. Is that okay with you? Let me call them, let me see, and gather some more information to bring back to you. That was awesome.
Yeah, I think, so there's a book, Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. There's key terms in there which are great. They're all question-based. You know, would you be open-minded to? You know, people like to be open-minded. You know, would you be open-minded to presenting an offer at this price? Or would you be open-minded to maybe coming down a little bit, you know, considering that we've been on the market for 21 days? most people in your situation, most people is a good one as well. People want to be like most people. Most people in this situation would probably, look at a couple of more homes and find something that's going to work better for them considering the terms. Most people would probably, accept this offer. I think, I think most people would accept this offer. What are your thoughts about this? Because people want to be like most people. People want to be open-minded. I bet you're a lot like me is another good one. I bet you're a lot like me. You want to get the most money for your home and you want to get it sold in a good amount of time. So what does that look like for you? What is the most money? What do you need to do? What is the time frame? So again, just lead with questions. But Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents is a great book. Listen to that audio tape. Super easy, and it's great conversation pieces to have with people, and really changes the way you speak and have conversations. And another one is Victoria, to comment on yours. The good news is, a lot of people. The good news is we do have an offer. Let's look at it that way. The good news is that we have something in hand, or the good news is we know what they want now. Now let's see what we could get. You know what I mean? We could get back from them. So it's all just how you say things to people and how you interact. Communication. Can't stress it enough. And questions. Ask questions. Denny Grimes does a great question-based script. His whole thing is questions. It's self-realization for the other person. And like Jackie was saying, you want to guide the conversation into where you want it to go. However, people need to be guided there with their own thing. What do you think of this? Do you think that the market's moving towards you or away from you? Which do you think, being on the market for this long, do you think that people are going to be, willing to write you a full price offer? Or do you think that somebody might come in and say that the value might not be there because of the days on market or whatever? So just question-based scripts. They're very important to ask questions.
I think in all areas of your life, when I go back to teaching, or you think about, like, even if you have kids, right? Well, would you like to clean your room before dinner or after dinner?
Yep.
You just empowered them with the choice, but the choice that we're going to clean a room, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you like to do your work before recess or during recess? Okay, well, you know what? I better just do it now, right? Like it's life lessons today, I think.
100%. The people like to talk about themselves. Let's be honest. And the more you ask questions, the more that you just seem like gold, because you're the most interesting person in the world, and you've said nothing to them because you've just asked them questions and they told you their life story and they've opened up to you, so they feel a connection with you because they've told something about themselves. So a piece of them is with you. It's so important to ask questions and actually, excuse my language, give a shit. Care about people. Like, this is important. We have to be caring about what our clients are doing, what situations they're going through. Did they just lose a family member and they have to sell their house now because their mom just died? It's sad, or their family's moving out from Wisconsin and they're about to have a grandbaby, so they're on their way out here. Awesome. So just be aware of what your clients are going through. Ask them questions and tailor the experience, because customer service is a thing of the past. It is all about experience, the experience you create and the relationships that you form with people. That's what's going to make you successful in this business, period. Yes. And communication and knowledge of the contract and everything is very important. Writing an offer, making a offer, blah, blah, blah. But the communication you have with your client, the expectations you set with them, the expectations you set with the other agent, the communication you have with them, it's just important. It's very important. So care about all sides, be cognizant of everybody, and also ask great questions and care. So recaps and ahas.
All right, let's hear some sharing.
For me, I got a low ball offer on my last sold property, and I feel like I did like pretty well, and like and just like hearing what you guys had to say like reinforced it. I mean, sometimes it depends on the situation, but like in mine, it was I was able to pull it off because we weren't really desperate to sell it, so it was easier for the negotiation process.
And were you able to you were able to get it sold and everything?
I was able to get it sold. I really wanted to like strongly sell it at the listing price I had it at, and just say it was priced to sell. But I ended up selling it for $5,000 below.
Don't ever beat yourself up on that. That's great. You know what I mean? Like I was saying. So what was the list price at?
It was at $560.
$560? Well, you're doing great.
Yeah.
So people are getting 98.7% of their list price, right? 99%. So you were right on par. 1% off. You know what I mean? So and don't let the pride get to you either. You know, like what? Because your opinion of the market and my opinion of the market and the buyers and sellers, it's all just an opinion of value, right? So the appraiser is going to have an ultimate decision on a lot of the times whether our opinion matters or not. You know, so that's what the lender is going to lend on. You could try to fight the appraisals and everything, but good job. Very well done for representing your client, and only, you know, negotiating $5,000 under is a great accomplishment. So don't see it as a failure of not getting that extra $5,000, but see it as an accomplishment that you're doing above even what most agents are doing right now for that. So
Within what, like 36 hours, Chris? I mean, it was fast too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was in about a day.
Yeah. I loved just, Bubba, the constant speaking of communication and how important it is to have that with the other agent. And I thought it was great that you even brought up that the time for the seller acceptance, because I think quite a few of us have been in that situation lately where we've had to write an addendum after the fact or include it in the counteroffer to adjust the time, right, to be compliant. And I think, like, gosh, if you, just that simple step of having that little communication piece saves like additional paperwork. So just that one little piece, but how valuable communication is as a whole with the other agent is huge. And I love that. I do have a question for you, though. I have a follow-up question for you. What do you do when you maybe experience working with a more difficult, challenging agent on the other end?
What do I do?
Yeah.
I breathe, and then I think about what I'm going to say, and then I communicate, and then try. So this transaction isn't between you and the agent. Again, this is not anything personal. This is not an ego fest to be had with the other agent. I get them back to the root of what we're doing. We're representing our clients. So let's do what's best for our clients, regardless of what you and I think. Would you be willing to, you know, maybe talk to your client about this? Or would you be open-minded to, you know, having a conversation about this piece of it? Or, you know, do you really think it's fair to ask for $5,000 on the HVAC? No. Okay. We already gave you $5,000 in concessions. So so you have to just be aware. And I think just communication throughout the transaction will help. Yeah. But again, when I do have a difficult agent, which you will all over the place, and just in frustrating transactions, because it's not only emotional for your clients, it's emotional for us because this is our living. Like, this transaction is a big part of what's going to happen for me paying my bills next month, or saving to go on a vacation, or living a life by design. Whatever you're doing is okay. Whatever you're doing is okay, but it's important to you as well. However, we have to take ourselves out of the conversation as much as possible and represent our clients. And that's what I get back to with the other agent. Hey, who are we working for? What are we really trying to accomplish? Let's make it a win-win for everybody so we can move forward and achieve the ultimate goal of getting this property transitioned to the next person. So.
Love it. Love it. Aren't you guys so thankful this was recorded? Because there are so many like just golden nuggets and everything that you had to share, Bubba. Anyone else have a takeaway or an aha? Try to get 2 more people. I'm good at waiting, I know. Victoria shared. We can't. Who else? We need 2 more people.
Bubba, real quickly, I really thought one of the last things you said about caring. Communication is not just the verbal. Sometimes the things that people don't realize are if you care and you come from the heart, you literally are going to bond to that person. And I think that's why you're successful. At the base of it is because you care. And it's not just verbal. You can tell that you really care. And that comes from the heart. So congratulations.
Thank you very much, Keith.
Love it. One more. Let me find somebody. Eric, you're such a great sharer. Will you share a takeaway with us?
Sure. Bubba's a really great communicator. It's just, can I be that good? You know, I don't. Well, also you, Jackie, as far as communicating with clients and your business communication, you're very good, and Bubba is. Can I reach that level?
Yes, you can. By hosting the open houses and by continually kind of practicing and bringing those questions in and role playing and scripting, that's how you get comfortable, right? You get comfortable being uncomfortable. The more people you talk to, the easier these questions and these conversations flow. For sure.
And Eric, to piggyback on that as well, you know, I still have a lot of growth in my business, in my personal life, and everything, in every aspect, you know, in communication as well. I definitely have areas that I can improve on. So what somebody who said to me once was, be the stupidest person in the room. Sit around other people, listen to other people. We do a script practice and role play every morning on our team, and we listen. And I listen to agents that are highly successful, and you get these little nuggets and pieces, and you just tailor them to yourself. And again, my biggest thing is just ask questions, ask good questions for people, and you could communicate with anybody. I mean, I think it's the biggest thing. They'll connect with you on a higher level when you ask those questions of them. So absolutely, Eric, you got it. You got it, sir. You're gonna be good. And time on task over time beats out talent every time. Cody Gibson said that to me one time, or said that in bold one time, and that is so true. Time on task over time beats out talent every single time. So just keep on task. Like Jackie said, keep doing your open houses, keep having those conversations, and you will get better and grow.
I love it.
Excellent. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Bubba. That was awesome. You did not disappoint, brought the energy, and I'll tell you, I think this one's going to get replayed a lot of times. So thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to share with us.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you, everybody, for being on the call.
This video was brought to you by Keller Williams Arizona Realty TV. Check out the rest of our channel for more amazing real estate training videos. If you like what you see, like and subscribe, and hit that bell so you get notified when a new episode comes out.